Awesome. Okay, well, welcome to encouraging self-care. I would love, this is going to be a little bit more of a discussion class. Like, I would really like to get some involvement in here. So I would love to hear first off, the first question is what you came to this class for, what you were hoping to get out of this class, and then secondly, what you believe self-care is, if you feel comfortable sharing that. And if you don't have a mic, obviously you can type this in.
So when I think of self-care, I think of like things you do to support like your health, whether it's physically, mentally, spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
And that can involve like a lot of things. Like sometimes your version of self-care is you really just need to sit on your couch and binge watch something all day. And that can be self-care. It doesn't have to include like spending a bunch of money going to a spa or getting a massage, stuff like that. I mostly came to this one because I am kind of bad at remembering to give people homework. So I kind of want like ideas for like more things to suggest for people, I guess, and like how to kind of come up with or with them come up with a plan.
Yeah. So more with your clients too, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I just don't want to tell them you should do this and have them not care to do it.
Yes. Yeah. Great. How to encourage clients. Thank you so much, Athena. Sorry. And Sheridan, I see here, not an East-West student, considered becoming an LMT and may still in the future, invited through Lori's email. That's awesome. Curious about learning how to practice self-care as a practitioner who is constantly caring for others. Perfect. So how to encourage our clients, how to encourage ourselves when we are, when we can get so focused. You're completely right. We can get hyper-focused on care for others and completely forget, or just even to the detriment of our care for ourselves. So, yep, that's awesome. So as a practitioner, I'm curious to hear your take the conversation around self-care. Always wondering where people take the conversation beyond feel-good surface level self-care. Awesome. So we're going to kind of, sounds like diving a little deeper into what self-care really means, what that might look like for you as a practitioner, as a human, as someone trying to help other people, all of those things. And maybe we can get into some specific techniques for LMTs, specific techniques as a care provider on how to assist you through that kind of journey, and maybe even as a student too, right? So we'll kind of go through all of that. Yeah, so that sounds great. Thank you so much. Anyone else want to share anything? Okay. Always feel free, in my classes, a lot of these are a little bit more discussion based, so please feel free to popcorn in, ask a question, a clarification, respond to something. Please feel free to do that anytime, via text or via spoken word. So cool. So I'm kind of with all of you that self-care is in one boat more complicated than we make it in a lot of ways. Like it takes energy, but on the other hand, it's less complicated in a lot of ways. Like it can be very, very simple, but it can also be very, very hard to do. And I think it's really helpful to talk about like really what self-care is and what can we be doing practically on a day-to-day basis, right? So when I was kind of looking around at definitions, my favorite definition that I found for self-care was defined as the practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health, or the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness, in particular during periods of stress. And I was like, this sounds really telling for where we're at right now, right? I feel like this moment in time, with classes being canceled for spring, with just a general like the COVID, like with coronavirus, with the world kind of being a little different, even if our lives haven't changed that much, or even if we're not stressed, the low-grade anxiety and stress of our communities does wear off on us. And so it's more important than ever to really kind of address like what does self-care, what needs to be happen, what should we be doing for self-care in this time of stress? And I don't know about you all, but the hardest time to take care of yourself is sometimes when the stress that you're feeling, the things that you're going through aren't directly related to you, if that makes sense. Because when things are directly related to you, it's a lot easier to process through them. It's a lot easier to understand where they are, what's going on. But when they're, from things from your past, or they are, people struggling around you, and you can't just solve it, fix it, those tend to be the stresses that are hardest on people. So thank you so much for joining us, Lacey. We were kind of, actually, I don't think you can see the old chat stuff, but we kind of started in by seeing what people's idea of self-care is and why they came into this class. So what they're hoping to get out today. So if you want to add anything, feel free to add anything throughout the class, popcorn in, ask questions, type or vocal, whatever works best for you. So yeah, can I ask real quick, was there anything that you're specifically wanting to get out of this class?
Hi, thank you for having me. I got an email from Lori saying that you guys were doing a bunch of classes. I missed the first couple of days, but I'm very interested in massage therapy, and I know that self-care is a huge part of it. And so I was just excited to hop in on this one with you guys.
That's awesome.
So
Now, is this
anything
Lori?
I can learn about self-care.
Yeah, is this Lori Blaine, Lori Fish? Or
Lori Johnson.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, well, welcome in.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, so we're just discussing like definition of self-care, taking care of yourself, promoting your own health, well-being, happiness, specifically in times where you actually need it, right? So during times of stress. So first thing I would like to hear is brainstorm, because we can all learn from one another, right? Let's brainstorm what everybody currently uses for self-care. So again, hop on in vocal or type it out. What do you use for self-care currently?
I have a garden that I do a lot, physically get some energy out. I also have my cats, because I think pets are great for self-care. I also have a couple TV series that, when the self-care dictates that I need to just sit and relax for the day, that are ones that I can always watch and never get tired of.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Athena. Others?
I would say self-care. I would agree with gardening, pets. I like to do yoga, meditation, breath work. Being with family and friends is always a de-stressor too. So just things like that. Journaling is good too.
Journaling and then family and friends. That's awesome. And then I'm seeing here from Sheridan, exercise, meditation, friends, music, reading, tea, tea, yum. From Ashley, talk therapy, journaling, silence, yoga, meditation, baths, crying, yes, reading for inspiration, wine, facials, bath, awesome. Okay, total like side note for a second. There was a fantastic article I read years ago about crying. And specifically, have you ever noticed that most of the time when guys cry, it's just like big old tears, and like they don't get snotty like most women do? Like we just get like just it's coming out our nose like constantly, right? And they compared men and women, but they compared like the different kind of crying. So if you cry because you're happy, or you cry because you cut an onion, or you cry because you're sad, or feeling a strong emotion like that. And most of the time, your tears are just kind of water, saline water, if you're happy or if something happens like that. But when you're sad or upset, frustrated, your tears are pumped full of like oxytocin, dopamine, all of these happy chemicals. And then especially for women, we have more tear ducts in our nose. And so that's why our noses get way more snotty. But your sense of smell is the one sense, like one sense that kind of bypasses your thalamus. It goes straight to your hypothalamus, so your kind of emotional part of your brain. And so it's your brain literally telling yourself, like, you need to calm down. Here's, I'm going to throw some happy chemicals directly at your emotional brain. And you're like, oh, okay. That's the fastest way for your body to hormonally tell itself to calm down, is to cry sometimes. So it's like, I get it, body. You just need to, that's what you need to do. So anyway, so to tell people, like, no, your brain is literally just trying to tell you to, like, it's okay. It's okay. So crying is really good. I'm with you there. Although it is funny, reading these, I thought one said birth instead of bath. And I was like, how is that self-care? I'm like, oh, bath, that makes more sense. So yeah. So awesome. This is a great list. And I hope that you can always feel free to, like, one of the reasons why we brainstorm these things is for you to pull ideas from other people. I think that the larger our repertoire of self-care techniques are, the better. That we have so much more that we can reach out and grasp onto. The other thing, yeah, we'll kind of go into here next. The idea of self-care, that taking action to preserve or improve one's own health, right? Or well-being and happiness, basically. So does it make you happy to have a clean home? Does it make you healthier to have your dishes done and, like, washed appropriately so there's not, bad smells in the air, or to take out the trash, right? Does it help to brush your teeth every day, right? One of the things we discuss with self-care is the true belief that anything that you do to take care of yourself can be self-care when you have the right attitude about it. And I'm not saying right attitude like this is the good attitude versus bad attitude. I'm just saying if you choose it to be, right? And so such things as washing your dishes in a sink of hot water, you could be upset that, man, I really, really wish I had an apartment with a dishwasher and I'm so sick of washing dishes by hand. Or we could go, wow, I have hot water. I have dishes. I have a sink. I have, like, running water indoors. And I have food that I can put on these dishes that they're dirty. And I can, I can take the time to wash and clean them. Perspective, right? And then, you can pretend your sink full of dishwater is actually a bathtub, right? And I think what it comes down to is gratitude, right? When we have a lot of the things that we use for self-care now are things we're grateful for. So when we're grateful for our pets, right? When we're grateful for our garden and for earth, we are grateful for these things, and thus they give us self-care. And I do think that a lot of times the other way around can happen. We can have self-care by being grateful. Does that make sense? And so I go back to the idea of practicing gratitude for all those little things. When we're sore after a day of massage, we could be like, God, I'm just so sore and I'm upset. It's like, well, I'm so grateful I have the ability to do the work I love, and to be able to use my hands in such a powerful way. And now, because I love my arms and I love my hands, I'm going to go take care of them, right? And then we'll talk about specific techniques for those too. But I think a lot of times, bringing in that gratitude expands those things that become self-care, and allows you to kind of love on yourself, everything you do. So that's one of the things I like to encourage first, is that by changing our attitude, we can do so much more to take care of ourselves. If that makes sense. Let's see. So I've got some ideas. Let's do some massage and practitioner related, since that was a few of the questions. How do we take care of ourselves when we are so busy taking care of other people? And how do we help take care of our clients? How do we encourage them to have self-care? Because here's the truth. I think that this is 100% correct. And you touched on it just briefly. Someone did. Anyway, that it isn't our job to make our clients all better. It isn't our job to fix them and to, take take away their agency. Their care and their health is up to them. And one of the things they did for self-care was to come see you, and that's amazing. And I think one of the biggest things we can do is praise our clients for going and getting that care that they need, and then saying, okay, now since you took care of yourself in this way, let's continue that, right? You were, that was so good of you to take care of yourself. Now here are more ways you can take care of yourself, right? So we allow them to see us a little bit like a tool, and I mean that in the best possible way, right? As a tool for their own self-care. And then we empower them that their care is theirs and they have their agency. We're not there to fix them or, to take away their agency. And then we just kind of give them more things to grow off of that. And it's okay. And then here's the other thing, you have to be okay with they don't do it, right? That it's still their agency. We aren't their bosses. We are not their, dictators of their life. We can just offer support. Of course, within balance, if you have a client who it's a bad relationship, for your own self-care, you should be able to fire clients too. So as long as the relationship is good and healthy, we have to respect that their decisions are theirs also, right? So I think with clients, we'll start here. I think with clients, simple is better. If you can give them one or two things, and then check in with them in a non-judgmental way. And it's not like, okay, how did your last week go? Did you do your stretches and exercises? Because A, they'll probably be embarrassed and because they probably didn't as much as they wanted to, and B, they'll probably lie, which is not good for your therapist relationship, right? You want your client to hopefully be comfortable being as honest as possible. But doing these things where you say like, hey, maybe this week try to mindfully breathe every time you think of this experience, or every time this stressor comes up, like you're bringing in, it feels like you're bringing a lot of stress into your body. And maybe the best thing we can do is just help you manage those stresses. And so then when your client comes back in, you can have that conversation and be like, hey, so how did that go? Like, was that helpful? Was that not? Did you see any changes from it? And it's okay if not. They're like, oh, I totally forgot to do it. That's okay. Then it probably wasn't something you really needed. Don't worry about it. Let's move on. So simple is going to be probably more effective for your clientele. You'll have clients that are so excited about their own health and wellness, they want more. I would still say start simple and let them, let them realize that simple works.
Put limits on it too.
Yes.
Some people want to be like good clients and hold this stretch for like 20 minutes and all they need is like 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like, for those who've taken class 2, I guess, or in term 2, right? And you'll be like, oh, you might want to ice that a little bit. Yeah, I went home and I iced it for 12 hours. You're like, no, that's not what we're talking about. Okay. Yeah, you have clients that get very excited, right? So if you start small, you have the clients that maybe are not going to do as much, don't feel overwhelmed, and the clients that would do too much can start seeing that those little changes make a huge difference over time, right? So depending on what your client's going through, maybe 1 to 3 things. And I would say, pull from stretches that are simple, especially stretches that they can do maybe in their everyday life. So for example, if I have a client who has a very, very tight anterior pelvis area, right? Flexors, instead of saying, get down on the floor and do a lunge, I might say, stand. Actually, I'll tilt this just a little bit. I might say stand and lean forward with your leg on a chair. Because anywhere you go, you can find a chair to put your leg up on and do kind of a partial lunge that way. Let's see. Instead of saying ice your arms, which is wonderful, and we'll talk about this as a therapist, how amazing that is. I might say, wash your hands, after you wash your hands with hot water, turn on the cold water and run them under the cold water for a few seconds. So again, I'm going to try to make it manageable for clients. Let's see. Encouraging them, of course, within our scope of practice, to breathe, to do those things that make them happy, right? To rest, right? That's a huge one after a massage where there's been a lot of change that's created. Just encouraging them to rest the next couple hours, maybe next day or two, and be mindful in their body. Those are huge, huge things. Let's see. I think I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go into client self-care. Is there other like specific questions you have on self-care that you could talk to your clients about?
Well, I remember, I think it was Crystal in Intro to Clinic. She had mentioned that when you give people self-care that's like tied to part of their routine, they tend to do it more. So like if they're sitting at a desk, every time they leave their office, they do like the arm stretch on the door frame. And that tends to help people remember to do it more.
100%. Yes. Yep. So working with their own routines. Great perspective. It's easiest to build on a current habit or to replace an old habit with a new habit. So if they say like, I've stopped, I don't know, old habit, maybe I've stopped opening the fridge. I'm trying to stop opening the fridge every time I go in my house. It's like, okay, so maybe instead of opening the fridge, every time you go into your house, do a shoulder stretch. So you can either build on a current habit, existing habit, or replace a habit, replace a whole habit with another habit. Those are kind of the two best habit forming ways to I don't know how our brain works, right? How we tap into it. So yeah, that's a great point. Build on what they're already doing. If they are, one of the ones I like to give to clients a lot of the time, if you are seated at a desk or a chair right now, you can try this. It's a lot of fun. Everybody's core engagement could be better, pretty much. Very few people have a good strong core where they don't get low back pain, especially if they're a desk worker. So if someone's sitting at a desk all day, instead of saying, hey, every half an hour get up, we all should do that, but it's really hard for people to make that change because they're not getting up already. Like you were saying, Athena, that's not their habit. Now you could say every time you get up and you go to the bathroom or whatever, do this, but it's going to be hard for them to retrain themselves to get up more. If that makes sense. But you say, hey, every half an hour at your desk, lift your legs up. So you're sitting at your chair and just lift your legs off the floor and hold them there. And if you notice, your core immediately engages, your back becomes erect. You can't really slouch very well holding your legs up in the air. And this is obviously not leaning back against the back of a chair. This is actually, like sit in your chair and lift your legs up. And I'll tell people, like, see how long you can hold it. Make it like a challenge for them, a little competition. Or, just hold it in the air for 30 seconds, just getting that core engaged, getting that spine to be nice and straight and even. This isn't perfect posture, but for a lot of people who maybe sit at a desk all day, it's a lot better. And it gives that little bit of engagement. They have ankle issues. You can say, lift your legs and roll your ankles. Spell out the alphabet. I actually like to tell clients to spell their name or spell the alphabet as opposed to just roll their ankles, because the rolling your ankles is just getting that one movement as opposed to spelling something with your feet. Gets all these little micro movements in your ankles, and you realize how bad your ankles move. Honestly, for me, I realize that when I do this. So that's a simple, working with whatever they're currently doing, right? If they're at a desk, maybe that's something you can say or do. Other thoughts on for clients? Okay. So let's go into you as a person and as a therapist, right? I think one of the things to tap into here is that idea that as healthcare providers, if we don't take care of ourselves, there is such thing as burnout with massage. One of the things I really love about East West is how much we talk about longevity of your career and reducing burnout and how to have that balance and take care of yourself. That is something that's not talked enough in many professions. And so self-care isn't just about you as a person, it's about your career and the work that you love and being able to do it as long as you want to do it, right? And having that longevity. So we talk about, things like kind of, you've all heard of like chronic stress, right? Long-term chronic stress issues, pain, etc. Those tend to build on in themselves. And so to help reverse that chronic aspect, we have to constantly be thinking, what can we be doing to help ourselves, our bodies, etc., get better, our minds, So there's so many wonderful, beyond what all of you said, there's so many other wonderful ways of self-care, taking breaks, planning them in, especially if you're self-employed as an LMT, it's going to be really easy, or even as an employee, it's really easy to fill your time. It's really hard to take your breaks. So actually stop and take your breaks, right? I think most jobs, we need to be better at this. We see breaks as a time to go get something else done. Well, I can call the bank during my break, or I can eat a snack during my break, which could be self-care, but you know what I mean? And so actually taking breaks and just stopping, checking in, being aware of your own self, I think that's huge. The fun thing about our field and our career is that we, because we use our bodies, we do notice things in our bodies earlier, which is handy. What I tell people who work at desks or have a really intense job, that often they don't have the mental recourse to realize what's going on in their body because it kind of sneaks up on them. They're too focused on something else. We have this mindfulness in our practice that does allow us to notice things, I think, sooner than a lot of people, and that's awesome. But what are we going to do with that, right? Are we going to actually take the time to check in, see what's going on, and make the changes, or are we going to just go like, I'm going to power through? So stopping and checking in. That's just huge. Stretch, breathing exercises. Yeah, let's do a couple now, actually. So there's a couple of great breathing. There's a whole bunch of great breathing exercises. What am I saying? There's a whole host of them. One that I just learned that I actually really, really, really like is you mix box breathing with a shoulder relaxation technique. Speaking of ABMP, AMTA, all those magazines that you get with your memberships have lots of great self-care techniques in there all the time. I pulled just a couple new ones out that I'm trying. So in this way, you could do a seated or standing, whatever is more comfortable for you. Box breathing is basically 4 seconds in, 4 second hold, 4 seconds out, 4 second hold. So we're going to do, if you feel comfortable to do a nice relaxed box breathing, feel free. If not, you can just nice deep breathe. Let's practice that for a couple of breaths. Eyes open or eyes closed, whatever works best for you. On your next inhale, I'm gonna have you tighten your shoulders up as much as you can, all the way to your ears. And you're gonna rotate your hands out so your palms are facing forward and reach down with your arms as hard as you can while you're also bringing your shoulders up as hard as you can. Continue to deep breathe or box breathe. When you feel your shoulders start to kind of tingle and shake, it's going to be happening mine's already happening. On your next exhale, reach down, let your shoulders relax, fall back, and then go back to normal breathing. So even as simple as that, taking a couple of deep box breaths, it was wonderful. But that action of bringing your shoulders up and rotating your arms out, that external rotation in your arms. I don't know about you, but for me, it's like, oh, my shoulders are settling down even further now. My arms feel longer, my neck feels longer. To me, that's really, really helpful for shoulder tension, stress, pain. And it's a really, really easy one you can show people in their own chair, right? Good. I'm glad the box breaths feel great. Good. There's all sorts of other techniques on that, of like single nostril box breaths and all sorts of other great breathing techniques, but just tapping into our breathing, right? That's a great first start. One of the things we do with clients a lot is we, we'll ask them to take a couple of deep breaths to release, reset, even right before a massage. But also, I don't know where everybody's in school, but sometimes those kind of jostling or rocking techniques, if you've ever had a massage and someone kind of rocked you a little bit first, that breaks up our sensory and sensory perception and our proprioception of what's going on around us, and allows us to kind of, again, loosen, let go. So as ourselves, maybe that's just wiggling around. Maybe that's doing spins. I've seen people where they stomp as fast as they can and then kind of shake it going up through their body. So all of those things to release whatever pattern you're currently in. And that's going to be really, really helpful as a massage therapist to release those patterns of stress and tension. Yeah, Qigong. Yes, good stuff. Do you have one that you would want to share from that?
I just like to incorporate like bouncing just in general with it. Like no matter what movements I'm doing, I just like to have a little like jumble with it.
Yeah, totally. That's huge. I have a background in like belly dancing. And so if I'm sitting, I like to like flex one butt cheek, then flex the other. And you kind of bounce one after the other. And that kind of control and bounce for each side. I don't know, for some reason, like it's so easy for us to get very disjointed from side to side in our body. And so I like the idea of doing something to one side then the other. Sweep one arm out, then sweep the other out, and kind of let yourself pull back and forth. The symmetry of like bouncing up and down or bouncing side to side or reaching side to side, spinning, that kind of back and forth symmetry allows you to feel a little bit more whole and put together. So things I would recommend that I like personally. Let's see. Some other things, eating healthy or eating properly and staying hydrated. Now, properly, they say properly, and I like this because if you are severely PMSing and you're really craving chocolate, now it's one thing to go buy a box of Oreos and stuff them on your face. It's another thing to be like, okay, I really need chocolate. I'm gonna go buy my favorite piece of cake, and I'm gonna enjoy every single bite of it with a candle lit in my house, right? So self-care versus more self-indulgence versus like there's other times where things that we like might turn into more addiction or more numbing, right? Numbing versus like, can we make this truly self-care? Can I be intentional with whatever I'm doing? It's okay to not do things perfectly. It's more about why are we doing things, right? Setting that intention. So eating properly, and how this relates to massage. Oh, go for it, Athena.
Oh, and drinking responsibly, because I don't like, wine and drinking as a self-care thing, because like you said, that can become overindulgence and addictive.
Right, but and then if someone else was like, I really, really love this red wine from this vineyard and it's my favorite, and it's like, it makes me think of all these amazing things, you're like, yeah, have a glass of wine, right? Know why you're doing something. That's, I think, always way to go back to the why of it, right? So when we talk about eating properly, I'm going from a massage lens as your practitioner right now. If I eat greasy foods and late at night, the next day I've got to fart. And I don't want to do that on my clients, right? So there's nothing more embarrassing than being farty in a room with a client. So just letting you know. But no, so eating properly to be a massage therapist, to feel your best, to do your best work, to not be embarrassed, right? All of those things. Like, why are you, and so for me, I know that carbs, any kind of grains or carbs make me super tired. And I know if I eat that at lunch and then I go do a massage, I will literally fall asleep on the client.
Well, and I think it was in a Eastern class, Dusty told us the story of like Buddha, who was like supposed to help this lady by telling her son, you know, stop eating so much sweets. And Buddha said, well, give me a year. And then when he came back and said, you know, he told the boy, stop eating so many sweets. The lady asked him, well, why did you have to wait a year? And he told her, well, I had to conquer it myself before I could tell somebody else to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think for practitioners, you can't prescribe somebody and tell them like you should eat properly if you can't also do that as an example.
Yeah, we should be an example, 100%. And if we're in a health field, like, we're best off being examples of that for our clients. Now, that's not to say we have to be a certain shape or size or anything like that. You know, but making healthy choices when we're in a health field, I 100%. Yep, it's great to just be that example. And you're gonna probably feel better if you're that example. Staying hydrated. I don't know about you, but every single client I have that comes in, I just want to be like, please hydrate, please drink more water, thank you. And so it's a thing that most people could work on, almost everybody. Let's see, carving out time in your day for, you know, daily walking, yoga, meditation, working out, right? Taking care of your physical body in that way, wanting to get better and really creating some time for that. Enjoying time in nature. We talked about that with gardening. That's a huge one. Let's see, a little time. Okay, so if anyone's ever studied like the 7 steps of survival, I pull a lot from there. The last step of survival, and it's on there, it's the way you survive is through play. So taking time every day to laugh and to play. And I think this goes back to the idea, you know, we said about friends being a huge stress reduction. It's because we get to play, right? And again, we go back to why. Like, are we playing to forget what we need to be doing? Or, you know, are we playing because we need this for our bodies and for our minds? And so don't overlook, for you or your clients, the need to play, right? It's a hard thing when you love your work can feel like play, but it's not. You still need to play, right? To enjoy friends and family, schedule fun outings, have things to look forward to, right? I think this is something we overlook with self-care. We think day by day, which is important. We need little things every day, but we also need to schedule things to look forward to. You know, schedule that trip that you've been dreaming of going on with your friend or your spouse or whatever. Schedule a nice dinner, right? Whatever those things are, give yourself something to be excited about in your own personal life and to look forward to. Participate in sports or activities that relax and energize you, right? Get yourself some awesome, what is it? Now I can't think of the chemical that, I literally can't think of the word of it, but you understand what I mean. When you like go for endorphins, get yourself some endorphins. It's good stuff. You want to add something, Athena? Oh, okay, sorry.
I was going to say endorphins and then you beat me to it.
Thank you. Thank you for picking up what I was putting down. I appreciate it. Let's see, make adjustments in your body mechanics and use proper equipment. So the LMT struggle. Please do not feel like you're going to just perfect your body mechanics in school and everything's going to be good. I still struggle with it. Everyone I know still struggles with it. The truth about the human body, while it's brilliant and wonderful in so many ways, if you do anything for a period of time in a repetitive motion, it's going to go, I wonder if I could make this easier by being lazy. So, you know, and that's where we get adhesions and tension. A lot of times it's our body going, well, they're in this position a lot, so why don't I just stick them there? I'll just glue them down. They can just stay there forever. You're like, that's not what I was looking for. And so, yeah, so body mechanics is something probably you're always going to struggle with. And then using proper equipment, right? Oh, it's so easy to say like, it's okay, I'll just figure it out. It's just one massage. Like if I don't have this tool, it's going to be okay. Yeah, it's not. It's just, you got to have those boundaries for yourself. And that's why I talk about boundaries being a huge self-care technique of going, this is what I can and cannot do. And that is okay. I don't do the work that I'm not trained in. I don't do work that I don't have the proper equipment for. And that's okay. There are limitations. So, and then make time for weekly touch therapy sessions, walk your talk. If you're gonna give massages, get some massages maybe at least once a month. But yeah, make time not only for you to review your, like how you're doing, make time to deal with things that come up. So maybe that's counseling, maybe that's massage therapy, any of those things. Like you need to make time for yourself to deal with things because you are going to have things that come up. You can't live a life where everything's perfect all the time. So you have to create, it's kind of like I always compare this to money because I feel like it makes more sense, but if you never had money in savings, when the S hit the fan, you would have debt, right? And so the reasons why we put money away towards savings is so that we don't get in debt and we don't freak out or panic when something bad happens. In the same way, taking that time to refuel yourself, to put extra energy away for yourself, to deal with issues that come up is your way of not spiraling down somewhere, right? Let's see. Those are some of the big ones there. I'm gonna say, like, if you have any questions right now, let's hop on and see if there's some ones.
I had a question, a little bit about self-care and also for use on clients. So I have suction cups, and I love doing that to me, but I forget, do I have to get a certification to do cupping on clients? Okay.
No, so there are certification classes, and you can do some additional training for sure. You don't, for like the state of Oregon doesn't require you to have a specific certification or license to do cupping. But it's one of those things, if you say like, I'm a cupping therapist in this technique, there might be some copyright issue. Yeah. So it doesn't, I think getting extra training in that is great, but it's just a wonderful technique, and it's pretty simple. Just make sure you know the health ramifications of different pathologies.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, good question.
And also cupping yourself is phenomenal, and so is gua sha. I did my delts the other day. It's so nice.
Yep. Yeah, cupping is so wonderful because you can get, you get that fascial layer, you get muscle layer, but you can also do it for like nerve flossing. So if you know a couple of nerve flosses, you can, cup over that area and then like get an even stronger nerve floss. They're just so good. So good. Yeah. Yeah. So cupping for yourself. I know we talked a little bit earlier about icing. So again, you'll learn this in second term. So ice is really fascinating. It just is. It's just really fascinating. So if you leave it on for like less than a minute, less than 2 minutes, it's a vasoconstrictor. So it sends blood away from the area. But it like initially will make things like swell a little bit. And then if you leave it on for a period of time, it'll bring swelling down and it'll vasodilate and bring more blood back in. That's the reddening you get when you leave ice on for a long period of time. So blood kind of swelling back in. And so what is wonderful to do, and I wish I had an ice cube right now, is your forearms, especially around your elbows. All of this can get really tight after a day of work of massage. Grab a little ice cube and just for about a minute, just go all the way up and down your arms, around your elbows, on your wrists. Seriously, it's going to be amazing. Please do it. Please try it. It's wonderful. And after gardening, it's a great one to do after gardening. Actually, for you, those that garden, or do yoga, you understand like afterwards, like stretching things out, moving things, right? I love contrast hydrotherapy in a lot of ways, where I do cold and hot at the same time on different body parts, or you can do it back and forth on the same body part. But for like migraines, one of my favorite ones is you put cold right at the base of your skull, and then you put hot like in your upper, lower back, shoulders, etc. And it creates a manual blood pump. Really? Yeah. So those are some that I really love, hydrotherapy wise, hot, cold hacks. Athena, were you going to jump on there?
Yeah, also doing, for migraines, doing the warm on hands or feet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, so side note for a second, speaking of contrast hydro, if any of you, I don't know how this works, but it's brilliant. Next time you get like a head cold, which will probably be a while, but whatever. I learned this technique where you take a hot foot bath or just a hot bath, but you get your feet as like hot as you can, right? And while you're doing this, you take some cotton socks, get them wet, put them in the freezer or the fridge, get them as cold as you can without like, you still want to be able to use them. Don't get them totally solidly frozen. I've done that before. It doesn't work as well. And then right when you get out of the bath, immediately put on the cold cotton socks, and hopefully they're ones that like go up high, like, mid shin or whatever. And put on those cold cotton socks, and then put a pair of wool socks over them and go lay down and get in bed. Like legitimately, you will not have a head cold the next day. It's so cool. I mean, obviously I'm not a doctor and I cannot say for sure you will not have a head cold, but I'm going to say that from personal experience, it's been one of those really, really nifty things that works fantastically.
So is putting a Vapo Rub in your socks before you go to bed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Again, not a doctor.
But it pulls them to our feet and it's wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, there's so many cool things to do. Let's see. Now that we have a lot of different techniques that we've talked about, and if you have any questions, any techniques you want to add, if you have specific ones more for like, hey, I struggle with this, we can talk about that. But the next part is creating a self-care plan for yourself. This is a weird time for it, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this up, is right now, a lot of people's routine and plans have kind of gotten thrown out the window. And like we were saying earlier, like Athena brought up, anytime you can build on someone's routine, they're more likely to do something. But right now, when all your routines are maybe thrown off, it can be a lot harder to build into those habits and do those self-care techniques. We kind of go path of least resistance instead in a lot of ways. And so this is a time to be more intentional and maybe create those routines for yourself. Some of the things that I've heard that really, really help me is, know your strength zone, know your strength time. If you're a morning person, do those things, do the things in the morning. If you're a night person, do those things at night. But also, if you have like a morning routine that gets you up in the morning, make sure it fuels you. Make sure it's not things that you are going to dread doing. You're like, oh, not only do I have to get up, but now I have to go read my book or whatever it is, right? Choose those things in the morning that are going to make you excited to get up, right? So self-care, find something that you can do every morning, whether it's just taking a couple of deep breaths or a yoga practice or taking a walk outside or sitting in your garden. Find something that you can be excited about and start making those, that schedule, those self-care schedules. I would really recommend writing out your schedule right now of everything you do and writing out your favorite self-care activities and planning them in and making them a part of your schedule. And again, we talked about self-care being doing your dishes, right? Self-care can be anything with gratitude. So maybe start thinking about, okay, what do I feel really, really good when it's done? Like for me, I really love a clean house. And so instead of going, oh, I have to clean the house, I've changed it to like, oh, I get to clean the house. This is my 30 minutes of cleaning the house per day that gives me so much energy, right? And so I've planned that in a way that is a self-care activity for myself. But I would recommend like taking all of this and making a plan for habits for yourself as a person and then eventually as a practitioner. right? So that's kind of my big spiel. So sorry, that was a lot of information. So let's open up specific questions on techniques for you, your client, and questions on setting, any questions that you have at this point.
So I made like a client self-care like homework sheet where it says like stretch 1, stretch 2. So that way after clients come in, I can just like write in what the thing is, because I personally never remember what the therapist tells me, but beyond like the first couple hours. What do you think of that as an option? Because I know that sometimes people will be like, oh, I don't want to carry a bunch of paperwork with me, or they'll just throw it out. Like,
yeah, so there is a little bit of a scope of practice, one that you're gonna have to be careful of, right? We're not able as massage therapists to prescribe or treat. And so you can't technically like prescribe exercises. If you say like, hey, I would recommend this stretch, I think it'll help, it might help what what you're feeling. But you don't want to be writing a bunch of exercises on there, and you don't want to be like, and then go to 45 degrees and then, flex this joint, right? It's got to be a little bit more basic. But I think for some clients, that's really, really helpful. I've definitely had them, say like, do you want me to take a video of you doing it? Do you want me to do you want to take a picture? I'll put my hand in front of my face. Do you want to take a picture of what it looks like? Maybe I'll send them a YouTube video. But yeah, if you want to have a form and fill it out and give it to them, I think that's great. Yeah.
But yeah, I can definitely see how that might be considered kind of crossing my area of, oh my gosh.
It's not a sharp line. So that's why we be a little careful. It's an area of caution. No, but it is a good way to like write in. You can write things in and give it to them, but I would keep it to stretches for sure, as opposed to exercises. And I wouldn't put any like clinical names or anything like that on there.
Yeah. Okay.
Sheridan, I'm going to plan those check-ins. These days, the need for self-care is kind of sneaking up on me. I'm going to sign off. Well, there you go, Sheridan. I'm hopefully glad that was helpful. Yep, planning those check-ins, that sounds awesome. I'm totally with you on the like self-care sneaks up. 100% get that. Time is not real right now, it feels. Yeah. Thank you for being with us too. Yeah. Other questions or thoughts that anyone wants to add? Okay. In general, I find that people carry stress in their shoulders and neck. I think it's like Atlas, the weight of the world, right? It's amazing how even Greek mythology knew that we carry the weight of the world on our shoulders and our neck, right? A lot of time you'll find grief in the chest or in the lower belly. Pain or that feeling of vulnerability is going to be more upper belly, mid belly in a lot of ways. Fear is a lot of times in the chest. And then there's other things, there's whole theories on muscle memory. Our memories actually go into our muscles. They kind of relate in our brain. And so you might feel, maybe you hurt your leg, you hurt your ankle, and that injury brings about a sense of helplessness. And so getting work on that ankle brings up that helplessness in you. This is a good thing to know about yourself and your clients. Be aware of where in your body you're feeling things, and know that your body, your spirit, your soul, your emotions, your experiences are all connected. They're all really related to one another. And they're trying to tell you clues about other parts of your being, right? So check in with your body, check in with your heart, your mind, and kind of allow it to guide you. Your body ultimately heals itself. And so I think that when you're just intentional, that's such a great first step to healing, right? Yeah. Okay. Any last questions or thought? Oh, thanks, Ashley.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, it was so great. Well, I'm excited to see some of you come back in school in summer term. For those who are graduating or just graduated, congratulations. And for those who haven't yet decided to join us, no, like I hope that you can always see the school as a resource, whether you ever end up becoming an LNT or not. And that, we're just so grateful that you were here today.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, well, you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy the day. Thanks for being here. Take care.
Bye.